I want to take this opportunity to first introduce myself. My name is Paul Namdi. I'm the safety director here at Nucor Vulcraft, Grapeland, Texas. I'm very excited to be here and I'm very passionate about what I do. Today is a very special day for all of us in this room today. Today is special because it's a day to reflect on our teammates that are no longer here with us. Today is also a special day to refocus and reprioritize on our safety goals. We've been very fortunate not to have serious accidents occur, but we've also had opportunities where we're able to learn that a serious accident is just one decision away. So before we get started today, I want to open up with a moment of silence for our teammates that are no longer here, as well as their families. Thank you very much. Today we have a speaker named Spencer Beach. Spencer has a very powerful story that he's going to be able to share with us today. The challenge is to everybody in this room to come with an open mind and an open heart. As if you listen closely, there are many parallels and things that we can align with in Spencer's story today. With that being said, as a team, please help me in welcoming Spencer Beach.
Thank you. How's everyone doing today? How was the food? So, before we get going, I do need to give a disclaimer, and that is I've been doing this now for 18 years. I've gone right across North America, and I've spoken to every industry known to mankind. I've been a mile underground. I've set off explosives a few times. I've been in the heart of a nuclear reactor. And in all the presentations I've ever delivered, I've had roughly 50 rough and tough, hard-working, full-grown people pass out. If any time my story's too much for you, please get up and go. Take 5 minutes. Splash some water on your face. If you smoke, go have a smoke. If you don't smoke, start. I'm told it helps. But more importantly, take care of yourself first, fair enough? You'll find I go through my story fairly quickly. Within 5 minutes, I'll be beyond the part that got to you. Come back, sit down, enjoy the rest of the session. I also, in the introduction, what you didn't hear is I'm from Canada, so I'll give you the Canadian welcome. How's it going, eh? And that really is a Canadian welcome. In Canada, we do say eh quite a lot. I don't realize it until I started going to the United States quite a lot. But A is like a question mark, because it's always at the end of a statement and it's always at the end of a question. I think that Canada is the only culture in the world where we actually gave a question mark a sound. But if you ever hear Canadians say A, just answer the bloody question. With that, I come from Edmonton, Alberta. If you don't know the geography of Canada, if you take Montana and you go 7 hours straight drive north, you will hit my hometown. Edmonton is considered the gateway to the north. It's about 1.1 million people. And it is the last major city until you hit Anchorage. So because of that, anything going north goes through Edmonton. And from my house, if you go about 45 minutes west, is the very start of the Alaska Highway, which I have driven the Alaska Highway for over 8 hours, and I didn't come anywhere near Alaska. Things are just that large in Canada, so. And also, I was just really considering it, how much I appreciate this time of year. Because in Canada, last weekend I was golfing, and then we're playing hockey with our kids, and then on the weekend, this weekend, I'm going home to go skiing. So we get the best of all the seasons right now. So with that, I want to start out by telling you how happy I am to be here. You see, every time I see an organization like this, like Nucor, go to all this trouble, stop operations, gather you up, pay you to be here, bring in the night crew to be here as well, feed you all, research hire a speaker like me, bring me all the way from Canada, put me up for a couple nights, pay me to be here. to do all these things just to take a moment for safety. To me, I think that's very powerful. To have an organization able to go to all this trouble, spend all this money, put their own time and energy into it, just to say we care. We want you guys and gals to go to work, to do your jobs, to make your money. But at the end of the day, we want you to go home. Be with your friends and family. Do those things in life you have to do. Those things in life you love to do. Well, let's face it. I never had that. I never had a company that cared about my own personal safety. I think it's pretty obvious when you look at me. I've been to hell and back. I've survived something that most people fear the most. And because of that, today I have a story I promise you'll never forget. My story starts on April 24, 2003. Yesterday was the 21st anniversary of that day. That day started out just like any other day for me. I woke up in the morning, jumped out of bed, threw on my work clothes, brushed my teeth, fixed my hair just enough so people didn't laugh at me. I kissed my wife goodbye. And I drove into work in Edmonton, where I was a flooring installer on a 14-man floor installation crew. My specific duties was to do all the service work, to clean up the mistakes, to put out the fires, if you will. Well, when I got to work that morning, my employer did what he always did. He handed me a handful of service orders, and then he said, "Spencer, go get it done." From there, I began to make my way around the outskirts of Edmonton, going from new house to new house, fix up all these little mistakes my fellow workers left behind. By 1 o'clock, I was on my last service call for the day. And I remember the drive, and it was a beautiful day. The official temperature that day was 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And as I recall, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It couldn't have been any nicer for early spring. But when I got to this service call, this time was a little different. This time I wasn't sent in to fix some small little mistake. Instead, I was sent into a brand new house to remove vinyl flooring from it because another crew installed the wrong color. And as you can imagine, removing vinyl flooring is hard, labor-intensive, tedious work. In fact, I don't think there's a harder job I could give you to do as a flooring installer. But my employer knew this. And over his years of being a flooring installer, he developed his own special method for getting this job done much faster. He instructed me to use a chemical. It's kind of like a glorified paint thinner. All I had to do is take this chemical and dump it on the floor, a few gallons at a time. Let it soak for just a couple moments. The chemical would reactivate the glue, and the flooring would peel up in sheets. It was almost as easy as peeling off a wet Band-Aid. The only drawback, of course, as you can imagine, was all the fumes that came from this chemical. So every time I worked with this chemical, I made sure I allowed as much ventilation as I possibly could. The first thing I did on that job was exactly as I was taught to do. I first walked out of the thermostat and I turned it down to its lowest setting to take away an ignition source. I then opened up both the garage door and the front door for ventilation, as they are my only immediate source of getting fresh air. I began to work diligently for the next couple hours. I removed the flooring out of the laundry room, down the hallway, out of the half bathroom, and I made my way to the front entry. And I remember as I was working, from time to time, the air currents kept closing those two doors on me. And every time this happened, I'd have to stop what I was doing, get up, go walk across that sticky floor over and over again, just to reopen two doors. To be quite honest with you, it became very bothersome for me to have to constantly stop what I was doing to do something as simple as reopen two doors time and time again. Well, by 4 o'clock, I was almost done for the day. I had just a few square feet of flooring left to move right in front of the front door. In order for me to do this more effectively, I actually closed the front door. Then the air currents closed the garage door on me again, and this time I didn't bother to get up and go reopen that door. After all, what could possibly happen to me in the next 15 minutes? There I was on my knees, working away hard, rushing to finish up so I could go home that night and plan my good friend's bachelor party. Well, unfortunately, I never made it to my friend's bachelor party. In fact, I didn't make it home that night. And nothing could prepare me was about to happen. It all starts with a tradesperson in the house, and the only other person in the house with me. He just finished his job for the day, proceeded to come down the stairs, stepped right over top of me, said goodbye, and reclosed the front door behind him. He must have only taken a few steps away from the house when all of a sudden I heard a loud whistle, and then bang! Fire erupted out of nowhere and engulfed my entire body. The fire was so thick that I couldn't see through it as the flames danced all around me. It was ever from floor to ceiling and wall to wall, and I was in the middle of it. You see what was happening was when I got to that job at 1 in the afternoon, the outside temperature that day, 68 degrees, had hit its high. And the very first thing I did was open up both the doors and windows for ventilation. And then I turned the thermostat down to its low setting, which only went to 62 degrees. I effectively allowed myself 6 degrees of separation. At 4 in the afternoon, when I was almost done for the day, that outside high was no longer 68, it went below 62. As soon as the thermostat read that, it told the furnace to turn on. The furnace then pulled all the fumes down the cold air return, ignited them, shot them back up, created a violent explosion that I was in the middle of. Instinctively, I went into fight mode and I sprung up from my knees and I reached out and grabbed onto that front door handle and I pulled with all my strength. You see, back then I was a really strong man. I was used to carrying hundreds of pounds of tools and materials up my shoulder. Yet as hard as I pulled on that door, it wouldn't budge. This happened because that loud whistle I heard just a few moments earlier, that was all the air being pulled in the house through any little crack it could find to feed the fire, creating a pressure difference in sealing those doors shut. Fortunate for me, new houses are a lot like cookie cutters. And I had worked this house layout many times, so I knew it off the back of my hand. So I let go of that door handle, I turned to my right, and I ran that fiery hallway past the half bathroom and into the laundry room where the garage entry was. In the few short moments it took me to run down an 8-foot hallway, I could already feel, smell, and hear all of my hair burning off of my head. Frantically, I reached out and grabbed onto that garage door handle, and I pulled and I tugged. But as hard as I tried, it was pointless because that door didn't open. So I let go of that door handle, I turned to my left, and I ran back that hallway, past the half bathroom and into the front entry. When I got there, I reached out and grabbed onto the front door handle, and as soon as I touched it, I began to realize just how hot those metal handles were getting. I had to force myself to hold on to it. I squeezed even tighter just to get out. And it was futile because that door didn't open. By now, I could feel all the clothes burning and melting into my body. The skin on my face literally felt like it was shrinking as it melted to my skull. At this point, it became very apparent that I was trapped and going to die. But I didn't give up. I still had a little bit of energy in me. So I did the only thing I could think of. I let go of that handle, I turned to my right, and I ran back that blazing hallway, past the half bathroom and into the laundry room. When I got there, I reached out and grabbed onto that red hot door handle, and then I pulled and I tugged and I gave that door everything I had. And it didn't open. And now there is only one thing left for me to do. I let go of that handle, collapsed into a ball, interlocked my fingers at the back of my head, tucked my face as close to that burning floor as I possibly could, and I gave up. I'm told this fire reached a temperature of 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit instantly. because of the chemical I was working with. To put that in perspective, the average house burns at about 1,400 degrees. They cremate bodies at 2,700 degrees. So I hope you can understand when I say all my energy was drained from me in less than 20 seconds. As I huddled there in a ball, alone, bald, naked, tormented beyond belief, and now physically on fire, time slowed down. Everything became peaceful. It's the eeriest feeling. Those moments just before death. The only way I can possibly explain it to you is I'm reminded of every night when I fall asleep. You know that moment when your subconsciousness and your consciousness collide and your thoughts start to race off into dreamland? It's kind of like that. That feeling of release. Everything was so calm. It took me back to the time I was a little kid walking home from school on a warm summer's day. And I do nothing but lie in the cool grass. I watch clouds roll by high, quietly above my head. Everything was just that peaceful. I took this time to think. I first thought about how quick it all happened. I couldn't believe I was in this fire on the verge of death when 20 seconds ago I was alive and healthy and about to go home plan my good friend's bachelor party. My thoughts then quickly turned to my wife, Tina, who was 4 months pregnant with our first child. I almost cried in that fire as I realized the burden of responsibility I just took and threw onto her shoulders. I wasn't going to be there to help with the household bills or chores, support her through her pregnancy, assist her when she needed me the most, when she gave birth to our child. I was never going to meet my daughter, never going to see her beautiful face laugh, cry, or smile. I wasn't going to be there to comfort her on days when she needed her daddy, or to proudly hold her hand and walk her to her first day in school. I was going to miss it all. To be quite honest with you, at that point, in that fire, I realized just how much I had worth protecting. At the exact same moment, I realized just how much I failed to protect. That's when God, and God alone, filled me with new strength, and He gave me the courage to rise up from my knees and to grab onto that screaming hot door handle. And I grabbed on and squeezed as tight as I could, and then I pulled and I tugged and I gave that door everything I had. And a little more. And that door finally that door swung open. And I could see right through the garage. I could see sunshine from the far end because the big overhead door was wide open. And I did not hesitate as I turned and I leaped into that garage. When I jumped into that garage, two things happened to me. The first thing is I fell down about 5 feet because the stairs to the garage weren't installed yet. The second thing is I landed in a large pile of construction garbage because that's where all the tradespeople are told to throw their garbage. On the very top of that garbage pile was all the flooring I just removed, soaked in the exact same chemical. And now I'm the match. The moment my burning body hit that garbage pile, I ignited the second fire. The only difference was I could see sunshine. My escape was just a few feet away from me. So I did what it took me to regain my balance. I scrambled to my feet and I ran out of that garage as fast as I could, burning from head to toe. I made it about 2/3 of the way down the unpaved driveway before I finally collapsed onto my back into the dirt. That was the last time I ever was able to run. That was the last time I ever could interlock my fingers and make a fist. That was the last time I ever looked normal. It certainly was the last time I ever felt normal. From there, I was raced off to the University of Alberta Hospital, into the emergency room, in a room just off to the side of it. And there was already a medical team waiting when I arrived. One person in particular, a doctor, stepped out of the crowd and introduced himself as Dr. Tredget, head of the burn unit, and he reassured me he was in the best burn treatment facility in all of Canada. The first thing this doctor asked me was, how was I burned? Now, I didn't think that was a very intelligent question coming from a doctor who just told me he was head of the burn unit. So I told him probably the most useless answer I could have. I actually told this burn surgeon that I was burned in a fire. Not a very helpful answer. Fortunately for me, that doctor was a little smarter than I was, and he quickly asked a couple more questions. What were you doing? What were you working with? And determined it was a chemical fire that I had been burned in. Immediately after he found that out, it was now my turn to start asking questions. And the first question I asked him was, how bad was it? I could have looked at any time. I was naked, but I was too afraid. I didn't want to see. And now I have the best doctor. Who better to tell me the news? He just calmly looked me up and down, sternly looked me straight in the eye, and told me I had received 3rd and 4th degree burns to 90% of my body. I had no idea what that meant. I had never met another burn survivor before. How was I supposed to know the pain and the hardship I was supposed to go from that point on? So I asked the doctor, what does that mean? And that's when he hit with a bombshell. He then told me I had a 5% chance to live. A mere 5% chance to live. You know, at that point in the hospital, a lot of things running through my head. But the one thought that stands out to this day is how nothing made sense. I couldn't put all the pieces together fast enough. I couldn't figure out how I only had a 5% chance to live when an hour before that I had a 100% chance to live. I was going home. I was going to be planning my friend's bachelor party. I was going to be spending the night with my pregnant wife. And now I'm in this hospital's emergency room, and I have this whole team of medical experts around me, and the best doctor in all of Canada, Forest Field, standing above me, telling me I have severe burns, the majority of my body, and the smallest of chances to live. So much changed. So fast. That honestly, nothing made sense. The doctor wasn't done, though. He then turned to me and he said, Spencer, you really only have 2 options. You can fight to live and I'll do everything possible I can for you. Or I can let you die. It's your choice. What a choice I now had. I could live or I could die. Who would have thought at the beginning of my workday I would make such a monumental decision? And there it was staring me in the face, and I decided right then what the answer was to be. Well, I can tell you letting go would have been so easy. All I had to do was say one word, die. And the doctor would have pumped me full of drugs, and I would have drifted off, left all the pain and all the horror that was to fall behind me. But I wasn't thinking to myself. I was thinking of my wife and my unborn child. And I told that doctor, I don't care. Do what it takes. I don't want to die. I can honestly tell you I had absolutely no idea what that decision would mean for myself and my family for the rest of our lives. I just want to pause here for a moment. I have promised myself I will never again in my lifetime ever let another doctor give me the option to live or die. And the reason I have made that promise is because that morning when I woke up, I actually gave myself that option to live or die. And I chose to die. It's the only way you can add it up. See, that wasn't the first time I'd ever done that job, work that chemical beyond what it was meant for. I can't tell you how many times I got away with it in the past. Whenever I worked that chemical beyond what it was meant for, hours after leaving the job, I could taste it on my tongue. And it's not like I was drinking the chemical back, but as I'm working those extreme environments with the fumes all around me, I'm breathing in the fumes are going in my lungs, and my lungs are put into my blood. And hours after leaving the job, the chemical would leave my blood, out my lungs, and I could taste it as it left my body. And I'm not stupid. I understood I was breathing in these fumes. I went to Home Depot and I bought the best drywaller's mask you can find. Unfortunately, they just stopped dust particles, not fumes and vapors. And I knew that. What I didn't know, though, was I needed to be properly fit tested with the half-mask respirator and the right cartridges. So instead, I did the best I could to protect myself with the knowledge and the materials I had at hand. Sometimes I couldn't do that job the way my employer wanted me to, like in the winter when I can't turn down the thermostat and open up doors and windows for ventilation. Here I am, a man who had no idea I had the right to refuse unsafe work, and I was refusing unsafe work, tied to the weather, the seasons. And do you know what my employer said? He didn't belittle me. He didn't put me down. He didn't mock me. He didn't make me feel like my job was on the line, and neither did my coworkers. Instead, he said, "Makes sense. What do you need? More people? Who do you want? More time? Tell me how much." You see, I found whenever I brought a valued concern to him, he listened to it because he valued me. And never once did mean the job did not get done. It just meant that together we found a better way to do it. I even went as far as telling Tina that morning when I woke up, I was thinking of phoning in sick because of that job. And that's not me. I'm a third-generation flooring installer. I went on my first job when I was 6 years old. I have 2 older brothers, and my dad always chose me to go to work with him because I didn't whine and cry like my baby older brothers did. When I graduated high school, I already knew what I was doing. I jumped right into the trades. At one time, I was the youngest installer in all of Edmonton to be running a crew, and I still hold that record to this day. At the age of 29, I no longer installed floors, I fixed them. These hands were extremely skilled at what they did. And I didn't get there because I copped out and I was unreliable. I got there because you can count on me and I did a real good job. So when I'm telling my wife I'm thinking of phoning in sick and I'm not, believe me, I had enough warning bells going off in my head about that chemical. But I did what all good, strong, hard-working people do. I took that gut feeling, that better sense, and I swallowed it good down deep inside, and I pushed to where I couldn't hear it anymore. And I said, "I love you, honey. Have a good day. I'll see you later." And I went to work, and I did nothing, absolutely nothing about controlling that chemical. Because I had the better sense to verbally communicate to my wife I was worried about that job. That was me giving myself that option to live or die. And by going to work and doing nothing about that better sense, I chose to die. There's just no other way you can add that up. How many times have you been in a similar situation where your gut's talking to you and you do nothing about it? Do you know what that gut feeling is? That was me talking to me. And I happen to be the smartest bloody person I know. And if I'm not willing to listen to myself, who the hell am I going to listen to? This explains why so many people go push back when you go question their safe behavior. Make no mistake, they've already seen the hazard. They've already had that internal discussion. They've already convinced themselves that what they're doing is just going to be just fine. They might even gone as far as to make it a habit in everything they do, like speeding everywhere we go on the highways. And then somebody comes up and questions what you're doing, and they push back, they explode. It's what I call a closed bubble. And I call it a closed bubble for 2 reasons. One, I call it closed because we have taken the topic of safety, closed it off, and put it people just cannot talk about it. And I call it a bubble because do bubbles ever pop nicely? No. And neither do people. And I get it. There's certain topics in this world we just cannot talk about. I can't talk about somebody's religion or politics. I can't tell you how to raise your kids or spend your money. I can't talk about somebody's sexuality. You want a real good example specific to the United States? In this country, I can't talk about gun control. The moment I do, people lose it. And for some reason, I can't talk about safety. I get all those other topics, religion, politics, gun control. Because when I bring up those topics, I am literally telling you how to live your life, and that's not my job. But I don't get safety. But safety is not me telling you how to live your life. That's me helping you to live your life. And the reason that's a help and not a tell is because when I talk about safety, in no way do I stop the task or the activity from actually occurring. All I do is I take the energy within the activity, control it, prevent an injury to you and me, and the activity still gets to occur. Because safety doesn't stop you from doing what you want to do or what you have to do. It just controls the energy while you're doing it. To me, that's got to be a help. I want to encourage each and every one of you to go ahead and pull your safety bubble out now. Go ahead and pop it on your own. Make your safety really easy to talk about, like sports, or the weather, or what you did on the weekend. When somebody comes up and questions what you're doing, this is all they're saying. Hey, here's an uncontrolled hazard. You know, if we just slow down, do a couple little more things, we'll take that uncontrolled hazard, we'll turn it into a controlled hazard. But I don't want to see you get hurt. I don't want to see me get hurt. I really want to make it home today. Don't you? So why don't we take that uncontrolled hazard? Let's put the right amount of time into it. No shortcuts, no speeding. Let's do all the company processes, not just some of them. Let's take that uncontrolled hazard and turn it into a controlled hazard because I care about you. That's all they're saying. Now, I've been talking about the safety bubble concept for about 7 years now. And believe me, even this concept, I've had people come up after a presentation and push back on it. And they'll say things like, you know what, Spencer? I'm completely fine with people talking about my safety. You know what, here at Nucor, I'd actually expect that with everything I've heard from your management team on how far they've advanced safety because they actually care about you, I'd expect that all of you feel fine about talking about the hazards here at work. Am I right? So I want to run you through the ultimate test if you are truly okay with people entering your safety bubble. I want you to think back to the last time you were on the road driving and you had your spouse, your partner, or a really good friend there beside you, and they dared correct your driving. How did you react in that moment? You see, my experience is when a backseat driver corrects our driving, we never act favorably, do we? We usually only have 2 short words for them. And those words were either shut up, get out, F off, you drive. And us well-trained husbands will bite our tongue as we say, yes, dear. Well, let's break down the scenario of what's happening when that backseat driver corrects your driving. First of all, this is your spouse, your partner, a really good friend. There's somebody you're supposed to want to hear what they have to say. And yet when they enter our safety bubble on how we drive, we shut them down. On top of that, they usually have that exact same magic plastic card you have that gives you the ability to drive. And that card means that they also come with tons of experience while driving. Plus, they're not focused on the road like you are. They have the ability to scan and see more things going on. And they happen to have the exact same goal as you do, to get to your destination. And on top of all those similarities, they are literally putting their lives into your hands. That one reason alone gives them every reason to speak up when they see something happening on the road. And yet when they do, we shut them down. I have trained, and I mean those words, I have trained myself to say 2 different words whenever Tina enters my safety bubble. And those 2 different words are, thank you. You see, although I realize I'm a really good driver, and believe me, I'm highly trained in safety, I also realize I'm not a perfect driver. And there are times when I'm distracted. There are times when I'm under the weather or tired. There's times I'm navigating roads like yesterday coming to Palestine, and it's Palestine because there's an I in it, not Palestine. Coming to Palestine, Texas, and I don't know these roads. And it's at those moments that I need Tina to speak up. And the worst thing I can do is shut her down. Because over time, I will train her not to speak up when she sees something. And I can promise you the last goal I have when I enter the vehicle with my family is for Tina to see something, not say anything because I trained her not to. And now an accident does happen. And it's me and my family going to the hospital. I can promise you that is the last goal I have when I enter the vehicle with my family. So instead, whenever Tina enters my safety bubble, whether I agree with her or not, I always let her know that this is a safe place for her to enter. And I do it by saying just two simple words. Thank you. And do you know what I found out? When I say thank you to Tina instead of F you, it makes the ride so much better. That is why I'll never let another doctor give me the option to live or die. Because the next time my gut's talking to me, or better yet, somebody approaches me because they care, I'm going to choose to listen. I can tell you in the last 21 years of my life of listening to myself and to other people, it has never once stopped me from doing anything I wanted to do or had to do. I just found better ways to do them. Unfortunately, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. On the verge of death in the emergency room. Immediately after I chose to live, the doctor then informed me he was going to allow my wife and mother into that room. When he told me that, I freaked out. I started to panic because I did not want my wife and my mother to come into that room and to see me like this. This is not how I want them to remember me by. But out of respect for them, no matter how much I begged or pleaded, the doctor was allowing them into the room. When they came in that room, I don't even remember my mother being there. I purely focused on Tina. As soon as I saw her, I told her to cancel our savings, how much my next paycheck was worth, when it was due. I was so busy trying to prepare for the worst, I completely forgot to tell her how much I loved her. And if you ask me, that was the biggest mistake I made that day, because Tina at least deserved to hear how much I loved her, as I took all the burdens and all the hardship of life and I threw them on her shoulders as I erased myself out of the picture. I remember she stood just a few feet from the door, and I could bravely hear in her voice as she held back the tears, and she asked the doctor if she could touch me. The moment she asked that question, I freaked out again. I started to panic, and my insides tightened, turned into knots because I was so scared of her soft, gentle, loving touch. You see, the thing that scared me so much was all I could do is picture in my head that the moment she touched me, it'd strip away all my skin. Just like when you roast a marshmallow at a campfire, you pull that chowder layer off. That's the exact same picture going on in my head, except for the slightest touch, move all skin and muscle right down to the bone. The doctor ever said she could touch me. So she bravely walked over to me, and she gently touched me right here on the top of my forehead. I know now that she had to do that. In a way to tell me that no matter what happened, everything was going to be okay. And that was it. That was all the time I got with my family. Make no mistake, they weren't being brought in that room to get a diagnosis and find out what I want to eat after surgery. They were being brought in that room because there's a very real chance they may never be able to speak to me again. They weren't even coming in for my benefit. They were solely coming in for their benefit so that they could grab just a little bit of closure. And we weren't given very much time for that at all. The medical staff ushered my family out of the room, and I began my tremendous fight to live. I spent the next 6 weeks of my life in an induced coma where I remember every one of my hellish nightmares. Following that, I spent 9 months at the University Hospital confined to an isolation room. After that, I spent 5 more months at the Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital before I was finally strong enough to go home. You see, I was hurt so bad and knocked down so far that at one point I actually weighed 112 pounds. Now I'm a 6'2" tall male adult. To give you an idea, right now roughly I weigh 220 pounds, so 112 pounds was not my idea of tough. Unfortunately, it's my reality. And that reality was literally skin and bones. But it wasn't my skin. Oh no. No, instead of some dead person's skin, they took off of them to temporarily cover me and protect me from infection. And if that's not bad enough, I also found I started to regain my consciousness. I'd look around my room, and I realized I was hooked up to many different machines. One machine had 2 tubes surgically inserted to each side of my chest into my lungs to drain fluid from them because they also were extremely burned. Oh yeah, that chemical, the fumes, they ignited in my lungs. I had another tube, a feeding tube inside my stomach to feed me because of that 4,500 calorie diet just sustained my life. And then I had a third tube, a ventilator inside my mouth so I could breathe, which also prevented me from talking, which at that time Tina says was a blessing. On top of that, I lied in bed for so long, and the doctors literally removed 63 pounds of burnt tissue from my body that I found I couldn't move. When I say I couldn't move, I mean I did not have the strength to roll over or sit up. And I have the ability to get out of my bed and go for a nice leisurely walk to the University Hospital and Poskill so 9 months I was there. That would have been really nice. You see, I couldn't even lift my legs or bend my elbows. I couldn't even wiggle my toes. That would have been a blessing. I couldn't even blink because of the damage the fire did to my eyelids, scarring them wide open. Every one of my fingers had a surgical steel pin inserted straight down through the bone, preventing my hands from permanently curling into useless fists, at the same time deformed the way they are. And as I already mentioned, 90% of my body was covered in cadaver skin. That skin was secured me with countless staples. It was always red and constantly used a pinkish fluid I got to lie in for the majority of the day. Every 6 weeks, the medical staff would race me off into surgery to change that skin as it would start to rot in my body. Now, as you can imagine with what I just described to you, overcoming severe burns is not an easy thing to do. The interesting thing, though, is in the last 21 years of my life, I have met well over 1,000 other people that have been injured at work. And what I found out is it doesn't matter what happened to you. You just have to perceive that injury affected your life. And that is not easy to overcome. And the very first emotion you're going to deal with is the anger. Hearing so many stories on how people get hurt, including my own, I haven't been able to pinpoint exactly where the anger starts. It comes when you meet the doctor. See, it doesn't matter what medical term leaves that doctor's mouth. This is what he's saying to you in layman's terms. Your life changed real fast. And because that's the outcome of an incident, is it changes your life in a way you don't want to change, a way you can't prepare for it. That's where the anger comes from, and it's immediate. You got to imagine, too, on so much medication, I'm literally in space. And the pain is 24/7. It never went away. The medication just barely dulled the pain. Here comes the depression. And I didn't have run-of-the-mill depression. I had severe depression. And it just got worse and worse and worse because I wasn't looking for sunshine, rainbows, lollipops, and unicorns in my life. I wanted to be depressed. That was my happy place. Here comes the anxiety. And anxiety is the weirdest thing in the world. For me, it was really like having a sumo wrestler sit on my chest and I couldn't breathe. It's strange enough. Nothing was stopping me from breathing. It was all in my head. I literally went crazy right in my mind for a few months. And then before I knew it, I wanted to die. It was the only way I could see to end the pain and the anger was to end my life. I'm very thankful. Thankful at this time I am completely immobile. Because I can tell you those thoughts to end my life were extremely real. They weren't fleeting thoughts that came and went. They're there day after day, week after week, month after month. And because I was completely immobile, it forced me to live through my darkest days. But that provided me the one thing I needed the most. I needed time. Time for something to change. Well, I just need any little bit of change. I needed a miracle. And that miracle came on September 28th, 2003. That was the day my daughter was born. I remember that day quite clearly. In fact, it's the first days I actually do fully remember. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning when my father-in-law burst into my room and announced to me that Tina was in labor. Now, I don't know why it is women have to give birth so bloody early in the morning. I think it's a revenge they do to us men. But there it was 4 in the morning and my father-in-law pacing back and forth in my room more nervous than I was. And as he paced back and forth, all I could do was think to myself, get out of my room. I just want to sleep. You know I was truly excited back then? I was overcome with joy. But I was on so many drugs, so many painkillers, so many antidepressants, so many anxiety pills, so many sleeping pills, that all I really wanted to do was sleep. And I reasoned in my head like this. Tina's a strong lady. Lord knows I put her through worse. What can I possibly do to help her anyways? I'm useless. I might as well get some sleep. She'll be fine. Fortunately for me, Tina's a very cooperative lady. It only took her 1 hour to give birth to our very first child, so yes, ladies, it can happen. In fact, my daughter came so fast, my mother-in-law delivered her right on my bed in my house. Great news, right? Well, it was, and it wasn't. Sure, we had a perfectly healthy little baby girl that we called Amber. Who could ask for any more? But I can't tell you how long I dreamed like to be a father. How excited it was the first time Tina told me she was pregnant. How much I anticipated that day when she was to give birth, when I was to finally become that father. That was to be the happiest day in my life. The happiest day in my life I spent in the wrong hospital, hopeless, useless, helpless, wanting to die. Happiest day of my life. Completely ripped from me. Just one more thing that fire had to take. Well, at this time, the doctors knew just how angry and how depressed I was, and they would have done anything to cheer me up. So the day after Amber was born, they made a little exception on who was allowed into my isolation room, an 8-pound, 6-ounce exception. That day when Tina got to the hospital, she put on a sterile gown, sterile gloves, a sterile mask, and a sterile hat like she always had to do for entering my room. The doctors wrapped Amber in a sterile pillowcase, and then Tina proudly brought her in for me to meet her. At this point, I was so weak I could do something simple, so my little baby girl. So Tina raised the railing of the bed up, patted the blanket, and then gently laid Amber right here in the crook of my arm. As she lay there, I counted her fingers. I looked at that cute little button nose all babies seem to have. I checked out her blonde hair. The blonde hair I know she got from me, mostly because I have no idea what Tina's real hair color is anyways. I couldn't quite feel Amber she laid in my arms because my nerves were so dead. But I could feel her life there. And as she laid there, that's when that miracle happened. You see, that miracle wasn't even my daughter being born. What was going on up until then is for the last 5 months, I was looking inside. And every time I looked inside, which was all the time, I saw nothing worth fighting for. I saw a man who used to be the most skilled person on the crew to someone who is now more helpless than a baby. I saw someone who had seen nothing but the inside of an isolation room for 5 months, and I was convinced I was never going home. I saw someone who used to be the life of the party to the angriest person you could possibly meet. I saw someone who everyone used to love, to who would want to love me now. And I looked like a monster. Believe me, I saw nothing worth fighting for. And as I held my daughter for the first time, that miracle was my eyes turned out. That's what it took for me to stop feeling sorry for myself for just a brief moment. And when I looked outside of myself, I saw something completely different. So I had this wonderful, beautiful, loving, strong, supportive wife who did want me. And all she wanted was one thing, and that was for me to try. And I can tell you I wasn't trying because I saw no point in it. And I saw I had this perfectly healthy little baby girl who did nothing wrong in life, whose life I actually changed within her mother's womb. And all she needed in life was two things. She needed her mom, and she needed her dad. She had that mom. She didn't have that dad. And that was my role to take. It's because of those two people in my life are in front of you today. I can promise you the anger was getting the best of me. It was chewing me up and getting ready to spit me out. And if I didn't have Tina and Amber to support and guide me through this journey, the anger was going to win. Unfortunately, I have watched that anger win in multiple other injured people's lives. Believe me, it is not easy when your life changes really fast to pick up all the pieces of how your life changed, put them back together in a perfect way where you never express that anger on the people you love. And what ends up happening is your loved ones, eventually they become tired of becoming a dumping ground for your anger. And eventually they leave because it's safer for them to leave. And the ironic thing is because anger has become your happy place and you will do anything to stay in that happy place, that when they leave, you blame them for leaving. Because you're always looking for new reasons and new people to get angry at so you can stay in that happy place. I can tell you, I tried to push Tina and Amber out of my life. They just refused to go. I can also tell you, without them, I didn't stand a chance at getting better. Because you can't do it on your own either. Yet, every year in this country, there is roughly 3.3 million reported workplace incidences. That's a phenomenal number, would you not agree? If we're all experts at safety, if none of us needs any help with it, if we're able to take that topic, close it off, and pretty people just cannot talk about it, why is that number so bloody high? It comes down because people lose focus on what's truly important in their life, just like me. At the time of my incident, I was more focused on going home to plan my friend's bachelor party than it was about having my mind on task, doing my job properly, so that I could go home. At this moment, I want to help all you refocus what's truly important in your life. I ask each and every one of you to close your eyes. Go close your eyes. And imagine you're at home right now and you're sitting on your couch and you have your family photo there in front of you. Or you're at your phone or your computer and you're looking at your pictures. Go ahead and start flipping those pictures of your life. Those pictures of your happy, smiling kids, your friends, your family, your spouses, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your grandkids, your pets. Look at all those milestone occasions in your life. Your graduation day, your first big paycheck, your wedding day, your anniversaries, the birth of your children, your own birthdays. Look at all the holidays you've ever taken. Those pictures where you hang with your friends doing things you love to do. Those pictures where you hang out with your kids and your grandkids, teach them the things you love to do. Go ahead, take all those pictures of your life and lay them all in front of you. Take a moment to remind yourself how important it takes so many pictures and preserve all those moments in time. And as you relive all those pictures, I want to start narrowing it down to one picture. Go narrow it down to the one picture that means the absolute most to whatever it is. When you find that picture, I want you to grab it and hold it good and high. Have a really good look at it. Realize how that one picture alone, if it was removed from your life, you'd not want to go on. And now I invite you to tear it up. Crumple the ball and throw it away. Burn that picture if you must, but do whatever it takes to completely destroy that picture and completely remove it from your life. Now open up your eyes. Did anyone here manage to destroy just one picture? No. And that's the way it should be. I should be the only one with my hand up because the day I got hurt was the day I ripped and tore through my family photo album. And here's what I failed to protect. I lost my job and the ability to do my job, and believe me, I was really good at it, and I loved working with my hands. I gave up 14 months of my life straight to hospital. All times I've gone back. I know what nightmares really are, what pain truly is. I know exactly what it means when somebody tells they've lost all hope. I let my wife, my family, my friends, and myself down because of my complacency. I missed the birth of my daughter, the first 9 months of her life, and it took over a year before I could finally pick up with my own strength. I no longer can golf, ski, bike, swim, hike, throw a ball, catch a frisbee, all things I used to love to do. And the truth is, 21 years later, I'm finally strong enough to try some things again. So I did pick up golfing a few years ago. Turns out I'm a better golfer than I was before. Make no mistake, though, I still suck. I just don't suck as bad. I probably would have tried golfing a few years before that. But my friends, they stopped calling to give me the chance. Because the day I got hurt, I lost a whole bunch of friends who will have to me because they can't deal with it. It turned out to be my closest friends, my childhood friends, the ones that knew me the best, they're the ones that got scarred the deepest. And the few friends I did keep, they see me in a different light, and so they should. I lost my hair, my nose, which was rebuilt over 6 surgeries, my ears, my nipples, 1/3 of my fingers, all my fingernails. I no longer can make a fist in either hand. The range of motion in all my joints is somewhat diminished, so I can't reach all the way up and I can't fully bend both my knees. Both my feet are partially paralyzed. The left side of my diaphragm is permanently paralyzed. I lost my oil glands, my sweat glands, and I no longer can tan normally, as you can see on this arm. My body's splotchy like that everywhere. My hot, cold, and touch sensation is also greatly diminished. I mean, there's areas you could touch me and never feel it, most of my lower legs. It also means when I have a shower, I have to be very careful I set that temperature. I could easily burn myself a second time. The circulation in my hands and face is so compromised that even mild days in winter, and I'm talking right up freezing with an overcast and a light breeze, that is too cold for me. I won't last more than 15 minutes in those conditions. My hands freeze. It's extremely painful. I lost my oil glands, my sweat glands. I already told you that. I lost, both my feet are always swollen. Both my eyes always water. I no longer can fully close my left eye. I'm sensitive to sunlight, so I don't dare go in the sunglasses, which are right here at this table, because sunlight literally burns my eyes. I've had 39 surgeries to date, and I have another 10 to 15 more surgeries to go through. And no matter how good those surgeries go, I'll always look like I've been through a fire. I'll always have a body permanently in scars. I'll always be disabled. My hands will always be deformed. My face will always be disfigured. That's how every picture in my family photo album is going to be from now on, with a burn survivor in the middle of it. There's one more change to that picture I need to share with you. At this point, we're going to jump 5 years into my story. When I was hurt, local insurance, workers' compensation, they retired me immediately. I was never supposed to work again. And out of sheer bloody determination, 5 years into my story, I'm now graduating from university, I'm a fully trained safety professional, and I received my first paycheck. It would have been easier for me to quit my job, retrain in a completely different field, find an employer with a safety system that cared about their people, than what it took for me to recover through a fire. And when I finally got that paycheck, I felt like everything was going great again. I'm lying in bed one night, ready to fall asleep. I felt a gentle tap on the shoulder. A very familiar tap I felt a million times before. I rolled over, "Hey, Tina, what's up?" "I'm unhappy. I want a divorce." I'll never forget those words. I'm unhappy. I want a divorce. And I won't forget those words because of how much they hurt me. I won't forget those words because of how much I hurt her. That day when I woke up, I saw the hazard, I told about it, and then I went to work and did nothing about the hazard. I was trying to show love and provide for my family. And now 5 years later, there's no denying how wrong I got it. That was the night I found out she was severely depressed. And we fought. We fought over the money, the cars, the kids, the house, you name it, we fought over it. About a month of raw emotion went by and we're fighting over who's going to leave the house. And I finally hit this point where I was like, I'm tired of fighting with my best friend. She gave me everything of who she was when I needed it the most. And in return, I'm giving her the worst I got. So I made myself a promise that day, and I promised myself I was never going to fight with her again. In order for me to do that, I had to gain some new perspective. So I sat down at the kitchen table, and I asked myself one thing. What did Tina do for me so perfectly when I got hurt? And the answer I found was this. She changed her role. You see, never once in those 5 years did she put the precious spouse on me. Never once did she say, hurry up and get better. I'm sick of living on insurance. I like the life we used to have. Never once did she grumble and complain I wasn't doing enough around the house, the stuff I used to help her with. Never once did she say to me, I don't care if it hurts. Your daughter needs more time with you, and I need time for me. Never once did she put the precious spouse on me. Instead, I found she became my best friend and my caregiver. And by doing that, she let me heal in my way in the time it had to be. When I realized what she did for me, I also realized how poorly I was playing my role. You see, when she asked for a divorce, I did not change. I remained a husband. By doing that, I tried to make her be a wife, and that brought more harm onto her. Whenever we fought over the house, she always said two things that as a husband I could not hear. I need time. Just give me some space. You see, as a husband, time and space is destruction of the family, is it not? But as a friend, time and space is part of that healing journey. The moment I realized what she did for me, I instantly changed my role. I became her best friend in that moment. I went back to my very first role in the relationship. When I did that, I saw everything completely different. Also, in this house we're fighting over, I realized that if anyone deserved that house, it was her. I know what it's like to be severely depressed. It's not easy. The last thing she needs right now is more stress thrown onto her shoulders, looking for a new place to live. That's on me right now. So the next day I left the house. I never fought over it again. I left with everything from the shingles on the roof to the toilet paper in the bathroom, because I felt if my best friend stood any chance of getting better, it was in the house we built together she was familiar with. And the money that inspired so many battles, all of a sudden I realized we saved this money for the rainy days. Whether I like it or not, right now for her it is pouring. And I don't get to choose when she heals, and I don't get to choose how she heals. I only get to choose if I'm going to stand by her as she heals. So I made myself a rule. If Tina needs it, Tina gets it. No questions asked. And our child that we were both using as a weapon, trying to hurt each other, we began to raise her together as we always did. It took 2 years. 2 years of having my family completely separated before we finally canceled a divorce. You ready to be cheered up now? Didn't think I'd leave you all grumpy now, did you? You guys and you gals, you're like, you're the worst motivational speaker ever. Where the hell did you find them? In Canada? Are you ready to be cheered up now? Tina and I now have a little 15-year-old boy. His name's Aiden. He's the one I golfed with on the weekend, and he's the one I'm going skiing with this weekend. So that's my story. And you can't have it. And you can't have it for two reasons. First reason is I'm really good at carrying it. Most people aren't. So let me carry it. Let me go around North America and inspire other people towards safety. And you guys and you gals, you do the one thing I can't. Live your life where you have an incident. Because this is what a life with an incident looks like. And if there's any statement you take away from me today, take that one home with you. This is what a life with an incident looks like. Believe me, everything I've shared from what leads up to the incident, to the emergency room, to seeing your family, to the acute care, to the chronic care, to the pain, to the medication, to the addictions, to the anger, you don't want to invite any of that into your life, especially when all incidents are completely 100% preventable. And that leads me to the second reason of why you can't have my story. Because you have something I never had. You have a company that cares about you. And I know Nucor cares about you because I haven't a hint of what this looked like today. and I questioned if only I had a hint of this, maybe I'd have a completely different story to share. And the reality is, I've spoken to over 2,000 organizations. I have yet to meet a perfect company. But I have met a whole bunch of companies that do care about their people. And they provide what you do need to be safe, here at work and at home. The question comes down to, are you going to use it? Are you going to use it when you feel pressured on time? Are you going to use it if you don't even see the value in it? Are you going to take the time to speak up in a meeting when you have a question, or are you just going to remain silent? Are you going to fill out your forms like they actually could prevent an incident, or fill them out like it's a routine thing you've done every single day? Because the more you use those things, the more benefit they have in actually working. Now, before I go, I just want to ask you one last question. And that is, why did you come to work today? Now, granted, there was catfish. Well, I got to say, that was pretty damn good catfish. So, but let me rephrase the question. If Nucor stopped paying you, would you come to work? Hell no, right? You come to work to make money, don't you? And what do you plan on doing with that money when you make it? Take it home. Spend on the people you love, doing things you love to do. And believe it or not, out of all the things an organization can offer you, and they can offer you quite a lot, even down to catfish, the thing that most closely fits why you come to work is the safety policies. Because those policies are designed in such a way that you get to come to work day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and you do your job in such a way where you don't get hurt. And by not getting hurt, always allows you to make your money, so you can always take it home and spend on the people you love, doing things you love to do. Why wouldn't you want to work with that when it so closely fits why you come to work? Now, I hope you enjoyed my presentation. If at any time I made you think twice about safety, these brochures you'd take home with you. On the back flap is my website. Go ahead and click on it. You can meet Tina, Amber, and Aiden. But more importantly, you can share my story with everyone you care about. It's the odds are I'm never your friends and I'm never your family. I can't do this on my own. What I can do is give you one more tool to add to your safety pouch and further up all become leaders in safety. If using my story in any way gives you the courage or them the inspiration, please use me all you want free of charge. The second thing is when you're on that website, right on the homepage is a brand new button. It says subscribe to my YouTube channel. When COVID hit, it killed my industry. I need to be able to travel and I need large audiences, and those two things did not play out in a pandemic. But the need for safety never went away. You guys and you gals, you kept on working, did you not? So I decided, although I could no longer at that time go help companies with their safety culture, I was going to start offering free content. Every month I release a brand new video. I call them Safety Minutes. They're 5 to 10 minute videos, and they're all the safety concepts I don't get to share on stage. And every single one of them is from the trades perspective, because that's where I came from. The next video was actually going to be celebrated in the International Day of Mourning, which happens on Sunday. So when Paul took a chance for a moment of silence for all the lost, injured workers or lost workers that happened here and outside of here, it's far too many. Texas is the second largest, the state with the second largest amount of injured fatal incidents at work. You only fall behind California. It's over 5,000 people die every year in this state at work. It's a phenomenal number. And it is important to take a moment to reflect on that. The second thing is, I have a book, if you're interested. It describes the first 8 years of my story. It's called In Case of Fire. The last few chapters are dedicated to Tina and her journey. I thought that was important to share. At the first 8 years, I thought this was a really positive book worth sharing, and that's why I wrote my story. If you're interested, you can only get it on my book site. I no longer deal with, you can only get it on my website. I no longer deal with bookstores anymore. They're absolute bastards to deal with. But on my website, it's over $24 with shipping and tax. Today, I got it down to $20. I'll eat any tax that the government can put on this, and I'll be more than happy to sign the book. Please note, if you want to shake my hand, share a story with me, ask a question, don't feel in any way obligated to buy a book. All they do is they pay for Tina's haircuts. They're bloody expensive. I have the books up here. You'll have to come see me. I take cash or check. And 5% of all book sales go to advancing burn research, because over the years, I'm trying to make the next person's journey a little bit easier. And through the books, I've donated over $25,000 to burn research. So just know I'm trying to do a little bit good with these books as well. And this book, I'm going to give to my buddy here. It's because I see American flag on your shirt there, and I just want to say, America! So there you go. All right, and the last thing I want to share with you is just my definition of safety. And my definition of safety is this: protect yourself adequately at home, at work, at play, and while driving, so that you have a long, rich, joyous, prosperous life where you get to do everything you ever wanted to with all the people you love that you want to do those things with. That's my definition of safety. I hope it becomes yours. Thank you. Thank you. I was in Dallas 2 weeks ago, and I really learned how much I appreciate you, sir, means to you guys. So I just want to say I appreciate that standing ovation. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you.
And Spencer, I think that speaks a lot to the team that we've got here. We've got a team that really cares and really appreciates folks like you and just our safety journey in general. But I did want to thank you for coming here, being here today. I realize you do this for a profession. But I appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to share, because obviously you've walked us through a very personal journey, and we thank you for that. With that, I always kind of think about, how do we close this out, and what do we leave everyone with from a message standpoint, just because I think it's so important that we all be thinking about these things as we leave. And I don't have anything. I think Spencer's message spoke for itself. And so what I would just ask and challenge you guys all to do is spend some time thinking and reflecting about his story. And there's so many takeaways to Tina and Amber and his why, to things he could have done differently, to his entire journey, and hearing numerous folks and their stories folks who've experienced tragic events have walked through similar journeys as Spencer. And so I would just challenge you guys all to just spend some time reflecting on that. Think about those things. What is it you take from it? I think each of us probably take different things from this, and it probably touches us in different ways. So with that, first shift, you're good to go. Second shift, you're going to start work here soon. But if you need time to process this, work through it, you need time to call somebody. If somebody comes to mind of your why, and you're thinking about that family book, you're thinking about the memories that you've already created, or to Spencer's comment, the memories you've yet to make, and this has hit you in some way, and you need to reach out to somebody, take that time, whatever you need to do. So with that, be safe. God bless. Thank you.